For 50 years, it was the most reliable money machine in American media. Not a product you loved, a product you simply could not escape. If you wanted the game, the news, the movies, the channels everyone at work was talking about, you paid for all of them at once, every single month, whether you watched 3 of them or 300. That was the deal. And for half a century, almost nobody argued with it, because there was no other door out of the room. 90 million homes, then 100 million, handed over the same check month after month to an industry that had quietly become one of the great empires of the 20th century. Think about that scale for a moment. Not 100 million fans of anything in particular, 100 million separate households, all funneled through the same monthly ritual, all paying the same tribute to the same handful of companies. Its rulers never had to make you happy. They only had to make you subscribe. They built no factory you could see, mined nothing out of the ground, yet they sat on a river of money that made oil barons look quaint. But here is the part that should unsettle you. The empire is not dying because someone finally built a better television. It is dying because the wire that carried it turned out to be worth more than everything it carried, and the people who owned that wire didn't notice until the ground had already opened beneath them. To understand the fall, you have to understand how strange the machine was in the first place. It did not begin as a media empire at all. It began as an engineering problem: how to get a clean signal to a town in a valley where the broadcast towers couldn't reach. Someone strung a wire down the mountain, charged the neighbors a small fee, and discovered something the whole industry would be built on. Once the wire enters the house, it never wants to leave. It becomes plumbing. It becomes as ordinary and as unquestioned as the pipe that brings the water. City by city, the operators went to local governments and asked for something priceless: the exclusive right to lay cable under those specific streets. In exchange, they promised to wire the whole town, rich blocks and poor blocks alike, and to answer to the local franchise authority. What they received back was a franchise, a fenced garden with one gardener. No competitor was going to spend a fortune digging up the very same street just to fight for the same houses. The economics of the trench protected them better than any patent ever could. And inside that fence, sheltered from the one thing that disciplines every other business: competition for the same customer, they began to assemble the thing that made them untouchable. The bundle. The bundle was a magic trick disguised as a cable package. Here is how it worked. You wanted one channel, the one with the team you loved. To get it, you had to take 40 others you would never watch. The operator paid every one of those networks a small fee for each subscriber, and passed the whole stack onto you as a single bill. It felt like a rip-off. It was also, quietly, one of the most elegant business models ever built. The channel you loved subsidized the 50 channels nobody asked for. The niche network that 11 people watched still got paid, because it was riding inside the same package as the giant, collecting its fee from millions of homes that would never once tune in. Everyone in the fortress ate from the same table, and the table was your monthly check. And there was one channel so powerful it held the entire structure together: live sports. You cannot record the ending of a game you already know. You cannot wait a week and stream it quietly. Sports had to be watched now, live, with everyone else, and only the bundle carried it. So the operators paid staggering, ever-rising sums for the rights, and passed those sums straight to every subscriber, sports fan or not. The grandmother who never watched a single game was helping pay for the broadcast rights anyway. That was the Keystone. Remember it. Because when the Keystone cracks, the arch does not sag. It falls. By its peak, the empire was almost unimaginable in its reach. Around 100 million American homes paid for television every month. Not 100 million fans, 100 million households, because there was effectively no other way to watch what everyone else was watching. The people who controlled the wire and the packages became some of the most powerful figures in the country, courted by every network that wanted to survive. If they refused to carry your channel, you were invisible. It did not matter how good your programming was. If they gave you a good slot in the bundle, you were rich before you had earned a single viewer. This was the golden age of the captive audience, and captivity is a wonderful business. You do not need to be liked. You do not need to improve. Your prices can climb every year, faster than inflation, and your customers can hate every increase and pay it anyway, because leaving means leaving everything at once. The game, the news, the show the whole office quotes on Monday morning. The Empire looked at that fury and pay and mistook it for loyalty. It was not loyalty. It was a locked door. Satisfaction scores could sit near the bottom of every industry in the country and it changed nothing, because a prisoner's opinion of the prison does not lower the walls. And somewhere far outside the fortress, in a garage nobody was watching, someone was quietly building a key. The first defection was so small it looked like a rounding error. A few 100,000 homes, mostly young, canceling the big bundle and stitching their own television together out of the open internet. The industry had a name for them, half amused, half dismissive, cord cutters. Executives waved it off in earnings calls. These were people who couldn't afford the real thing, they said. Students. Temporary. They would come back the moment they grew up, got a couch, and wanted to watch a real game in real quality on a real screen. But here is the part that should unsettle you. The cord cutters were not poorer versions of the old customer. They were a preview of the new one. What they had figured out was simple and devastating. The shows were never actually attached to the wire. The wire was just the road. And now there was a second road, one the Empire itself had paved, at enormous cost, without understanding what it had done. Because to sell you all those channels in ever sharper quality, the operators had spent years, and billions, upgrading that same cable to carry something else. Data. The internet. They thought they were building a better pipe for their television. They were building the exit. And the smartest customers had already found it. This is the twist the Empire never saw coming, and it is the whole story in one sentence. The real product was never the shows. It was the broadband. For decades the operators believed the content was the treasure and the wire was just the delivery truck. They had it exactly backwards. As streaming exploded, people started canceling the expensive television package and keeping the internet connection from the very same company. Think about what that means for a second, because it is the hinge of the entire story. The customer stayed. The wire stayed. The monthly relationship stayed. Only the profitable, captive, high-margin bundle walked out the door. The operators woke up to find they were no longer emperors of television. They were internet providers who happened to still sell a shrinking, money-losing cable package on the side, defending a business that was actively costing them the goodwill of the very broadband customers who now mattered most. The distribution had separated from the content. And once those two things come apart, they do not go back together. The shows scattered across a dozen streaming apps, each one selling directly to you, cutting out the middleman who had made himself a king by standing between the viewer and the screen. A la carte had finally arrived, the thing customers had begged for and the Empire had always refused. And the bundle's genius became its curse. Everyone at that shared table stopped eating at once. Watch what happens when the captive audience stops being captive. The bundle only worked because the channel you loved paid for the channels you ignored. Pull enough subscribers out, and the whole cross-subsidy collapses, not gently, but altogether, because every part of it was leaning on every other part. The niche networks, suddenly asked to survive on their own genuinely tiny audience, simply could not. The regional sports networks, the ones that had paid fortunes for the local team, certain that every home in the region would fund it forever, found the homes gone and the contracts still do. Some of them went bankrupt, buried under rights fees for games they could no longer sell to enough people. The Keystone, the thing that had held the arch together, became the heaviest stone dragging it down. And the operators, bleeding subscribers every quarter, finally refused to keep paying ever higher fees to carry channels fewer and fewer people watched. So the screen went black. Carriage disputes, blackouts, became routine, whole networks yanked off the air in the middle of a season while two giants fought over money in plain view of the customer. And each blackout taught the customer the exact same lesson the cord cutters had already learned. You don't actually need this. There is another road. Every single fight to defend the empire quietly recruited more people to abandon it. So here is the pattern, and it is older than cable, older than television, older than any wire. An empire built on a captive bundle is invincible right up until the distribution separates from the content. As long as the wire owns the only road, the fury doesn't matter and the bill keeps coming. Complaints are just noise a monopoly can afford to ignore. But the moment a second road opens, the moment the thing people actually want can travel without you, the captivity ends, and captivity was the entire business. Notice how it happened. The empire was not killed by a rival with better shows or a cleverer bundle. It was buried by its own infrastructure, by the data pipe it built with its own hands to strengthen the bundle, which quietly became the escape hatch out of it. Slowly, then all at once. That is how these things always end: a long, ignored erosion, and then a cliff. The 100 million homes did not vanish overnight. They are draining, quarter after quarter, toward a fraction of the old peak, and the same wire that once carried an entire empire now mostly carries the internet that replaced it. The fortress still stands. It's just that everyone inside has walked out through a door the emperor built himself. Which leaves one uncomfortable question, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. What empire that feels permanent to you right now, today, is already building the very road that will one day carry its customers away?